Well, it's been a very nice and long summer, but it's September, soon to be October, soon to be fall, soon enough to be winter. Something I'm not looking forward to very much, but I thought I'd take some time today to talk about some of the things that I've learned growing vegetables in my own backyard this summer. One of the most important lessons I've learned this summer is just to keep going when things get tough in the garden. There were plenty of times when I just felt like throwing in the towel, really. Plenty of vegetables that didn't exactly go my way, but there were a ton of vegetables that just succeeded without me really having to do anything. So it's hard sometimes to find out what you're doing right. It's easy to see what you're doing wrong, especially when people in the YouTube comments are constantly telling you what you're doing wrong. But I appreciate all that feedback. Don't stop commenting when I'm wrong. Please let me know. It's the only way that I'll learn is by being wrong. But I was so ready to just give up on my tomatoes, for instance, this year. I dealt with a lot of blossom end rot, and I finally kind of tackled the problem. I'm getting about 50-50 on good tomatoes versus bad tomatoes at this point, which I'm just happy to be harvesting tomatoes, really. But I kept up with it. I tried adding more fertilizer, adding more calcium to the soil, changed my watering schedule, and all of those things in combination seemed to help me get them into the right spot. When the issue was sort of how I grew them in the first place. I deeply wanted to save money on my garden this year because I knew I was building some raised beds and I was building a greenhouse and buying mulch and soil and all of these things to get my garden started. And that's the reason I grew so many buckets. I have over 20 buckets in my garden, and I love growing the peppers in these buckets. Growing the peppers in the buckets was probably the best decision I made before the year started. But growing my tomatoes in buckets has been a different challenge. I think if I had a raised bed for those and I actually prepped more time in the spring, then I would have had more success with my tomatoes. But Roma tomatoes, also from what I've seen online, are very finicky just by themselves all the time. So who knows? Maybe the buckets are fine, but my trellising was not fine. These stakes did nothing for me. I should have just not even put them in. Another thing I haven't been able to stay on top of is pests this summer, especially squash bugs and cucumber beetles. Those are the two main ones that I see all the time. Squash bugs are a little easier to take care of. They're very slow. They don't really have much way of defense. You just throw them into soapy water or just smush them on the ground. That's usually what I end up doing. But the cucumber beetles, they're a little more elusive, and at first I thought they were just yellow ladybugs. So you really have to stay on top of those especially. But also, my garden has been full of wonderfully great bugs and pests. I guess they're not really pests if I consider them great this summer as well. So many bees in my backyard, and I'm in love with that. I love how many bees were in here, and none of the big scary looking bees either. These were all like fat honeybee, bumblebee types. I saw a lot of green lacewings, which I saw last year. Those eat aphids. I saw a lot of ladybugs also eat aphids. Very good thing to see. I have some spiders, which is, I'm a general fan of spiders, so that's a good thing. A lot of mosquitoes in my garden, though. That is one thing that I have been dealing with all summer. My legs have been bitten up from walking through my peppers and watering them every single day. So many bug bites this summer I endured. So lesson for next year, wear longer pants in the garden and try to space things a little wider. Everything is so close together. My legs are always wrestling up against leaves. I never know what's touching them. I never know if I'm walking through a web. I never know what is stinging me or biting me. So that's another lesson I learned. Embrace the bugs, but also you have to stay on top of bugs or they will eat your plants. Squash bugs decimated my spaghetti squash earlier this season, and I just didn't know how to deal with them. And so figuring out how to combat any problem before it becomes a problem will always save you a headache and time. A very valuable lesson I learned is that if you're unsure about planting something or don't know how to grow a vegetable, just plant it. The worst that'll happen is probably that it grows and you harvest the vegetable. Like these watermelon, this is a huge watermelon patch. I'm really glad I put these watermelons in this bed that had snap peas before, because peas are nitrogen fixers and they gave a ton of nitrogen to the soil. And you can tell by the incredible foliage in this bed alone. My other watermelon bed has had like onions and arugula and lettuce in there, taking all the nitrogen away. And that plant isn't looking as good or producing nearly as many or big watermelons as this one is. And the cantaloupe, I could barely find any guides online of step-by-step growing cantaloupe. Like there are so many for zucchini or onions or tomatoes and stuff like that. So I just planted the seeds in the ground. Same with the okra. I just planted them in the ground and they shot up and I dealt with them as I dealt with them. And being able to adapt to whatever comes out of the ground when you're growing something will truly test your skills as a gardener. So instead of trying to know everything before planting, I'm going to start enjoying the challenge of learning as I go. And that's really been the whole vibe with me in this garden, is learning as I grow. That was a good one. I don't care what anyone says. But at the same time, I do need to prepare a little more for my fall planting. I want to plant onions and garlic over the winter. And I want to make sure that I want to build a cold frame. I want to grow things in a cold frame so I can extend my season even further. I got to make sure I start putting stuff in the greenhouse as we're getting closer to October. I'll be gone for the first 2 weeks of October. So at the end of the season is when I'm going to be needed most in the garden, and I'll be gone. So that'll be very interesting. I'm not sure what I'm going to do content wise for that time. I just wanted to put that out there that at the beginning of October for about 2 weeks, there probably won't be any Nebraska Garden updates. And moving into the fall, I'm also not sure what the updates will look like. I won't be out here every single day. I won't be needing to even water every day. So the updates, they might turn into more ranking videos. People are liking the ranking every vegetable in the Nebraska Garden series. I might do that more. I have watermelons, cantaloupes, spaghetti squash, cucumbers. I just did cucumbers. I have a lot more plans to get into, and I have a lot more plans for next year. And I want you guys to follow me every step of the way. When it comes to planning, I just built 4 square beds, and I've learned that square beds aren't really conducive to ergonomics in the garden. It's kind of hard to get in the middle. It's kind of hard to walk around, and that isn't helped by all the buckets I have. So I need to plan, especially on not just planting, but planning my garden for next year. And I'm really excited to get to do that. So if you enjoy the Nebraska Garden content, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. The channel has blown up this summer. I am so blessed and grateful for everybody who watches the videos, likes, comments. You guys literally make my day every single day. I get to post one of these silly little updates. I think everybody should garden. And if you watch me garden, that should just tell you that everybody can garden. Because clearly there are a lot of areas I can improve, and I'm really glad that I'm improving along with you guys. Any beginner gardeners out there, please join the Beginner Gardeners Club Discord. You will also get notifications when I post anything, and some cute dog pics as well. It's really worth your time. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. Happy gardening. Oh, my legs hurt.